Wait a minute.
Hear this.
Birdy num num. Birdy num num. Birdy num num.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Birdy Num Num podcast, the BNN. Good to be here. I hope you guys are having a good week. I'm having a good week, and this week on the podcast, every 2 weeks, we have a guest, and very excited to have my guest for this week, Mrs. Alicia Souza. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So nice to have you here.
Oh, so nice to meet you. Finally.
Finally.
I
I feel like we've met before, but
I know we've had this, but I don't know. I mean, besides the one where I told you I saw you and didn't say hi.
yeah, she came to my show and did not say hello. And
Because he was swarmed with
wouldn't you like
people.
to know? We rhyme. Let's go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So, Alicia, good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Very excited to talk to you. And I know a lot of people who follow this podcast will be excited to see you on it. For those of you who don't know Alicia, before you continue listening, please pause, go to her Instagram right now, be amazed, have a sense of wonderment, be like, wow, this is crazy. She is one of my favorite illustrators in the country, in the world, I would even say.
So sweet.
Very unique style, very cool. So Alicia, even though a lot of people will know who you are, if you could just for a minute or two, just quickly recap your story.
Where do I start?
Yeah, I mean, from when you started to kind of professionally, I would say we don't
Okay,
need to know about. I was born
I really
to
want to talk about my
electrician.
childhood. Okay. All right. So when I got out of uni is when I started freelancing as
And
an
you
illustrator.
studied what?
I studied communication design.
Communication design.
Yeah. So, but I always wanted to draw, and then I was lucky enough that during my portfolio review day, where I was not present, a newspaper contacted me and said they wanted me to draw something for the newspaper, and I got my first contract job, and it was amazing. And I was like, "Oh, this is what I have to do!" Like,
wow. Okay.
So that was just one-off job. So
This was where in Australia?
In Melbourne, yeah.
In Melbourne. Okay, so you studied communications. What was it called?
Communication design.
Communication
It's pretty
design.
much maybe perhaps a fancy word for graphic design.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and then I started freelancing from there, and then I think how many years? Maybe 3 years after that, I moved to Bangalore.
Okay.
I worked on Chumbak for about a year and a half to 2 years, and then started freelancing.
Okay, so you came to India, and you were basically illustrating already at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the novice, because I have a lot of comedians on here, actors and stuff, what's the difference between illustrator and graphic designer?
So graphic design, illustrating is basically drawing.
Okay.
I mean, technically that also includes different styles of drawings, including like if you collage, I guess, and draw. That's still will come under illustration. Graphic design is basically... technically, it's like solving a design problem, but in I think maybe a way to describe it is anything from print design to like book. And wow, how do I describe design? Anything from signages to like
anything visual that's not necessarily
I feel like
words.
you'll be able to describe it better. It's been a while since I did design work at all.
Okay.
Purely illustrating at this point.
Okay, so I'm curious with India specifically, because I always take, you and I are interesting ourselves because we have a deep breadth of world experience just based on the fact that we were born. We have, I always love that he has international experience.
Oh, yeah,
because his parents had him born elsewhere. Yes. What's the one thing I struggle with?
Yep.
I've been in India now 9 years. How many years has it been?
Almost the same. I mean,
All right. When did
2010.
2010
Yeah.
when?
I think
Don't
about
say
July.
Name. Don't say. Okay, July.
I think
beat you.
approximately.
Okay.
I have to look at my passport. But funnily enough, I did recently, and that's how I know approximate.
Okay, so you've been here. Are you are you a citizen overseas? Or
No.
are you...
I'm an Indian citizen.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And you were born in
Abu Dhabi.
In Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
how are you an Indian citizen if you're
In
born
Abu Dhabi, you don't get the national.
Really?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so
that's actually a
it's
misconception.
not birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
Understood.
So so I was just Indian.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Not just proudly Indian.
I am Indian. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get straight to the point. What's the toughest part about being a creative, specifically in the true arts? in this country?
In this country, okay. So I think starting off, and this, I guess this part applies to anywhere in the world. When you're starting off, it's a lot harder. Maybe one of the other things is when you're starting off, also trying to justify your field. The fact that you're an illustrator, people don't even understand. So when someone asks me, depending on where I am, if they don't get the word illustrator immediately, I just switch to designer, and then they just assume I'm fashion designer, and I'm just like, it's fine, that's fine. Especially at the airport, that's like the biggest place I get, because they ask you, what do you do for a job? And
so and you say like cartoons or something.
I probably should say cartoonist, but so I just say designer.
Okay.
I dissed my field during that time.
but is it like, are we at a place now, and I'm sure amongst your peers and the people who know you, and whether it's people from advertising agencies or creative agencies, obviously it's easy to, justify your price or when you speak to publishers, and we were talking about authors, but for example, I struggle with this, where obviously I'll get brand work and I'll get calls, but every once in a while, just yesterday, like some uncle from some Rotary Club or something, we want comedies. And I'm like, oh boy,
I love this.
Like, this is not going to be good.
I just want to take your calls now.
And he's like, so what do you do? And I was like, how'd you get my number?
Do they ask you to tell jokes on the phone? Please say yes.
They might, but they're going to hate. The second I start talking 2 words, I can just see his like smile disappear, because he thinks I'm going to be some like 65-year-old comedian talking. So he hasn't even researched me,
Okay.
So I send my price. Then he's like, send me your videos. I'm like, if you haven't seen my videos, why are we even talking?
No.
So do you still get that sort of... the question I'm trying to ask is, as a freelancer, as somebody who's, successful by building their own ecosystem, I presume, do you still get, is there still kind of a, one day you're in the cutting edge of arts in India, and then on the same day, you just feel like, oh God, why am I still working in the same like stuff again?
I think I'm really lucky at this point. I don't get, I don't remember, to be honest, the last time someone questioned my price. If they can't afford it, they just say, sorry, I can't afford it. And that's absolutely fine. And usually I'm sorry too, because I completely understand budget constraints and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think majority of my career was that, of course, and I think that's the case for any creative field, really.
Okay.
You justify your price, why is it so expensive and stuff like that, but at least now, touch wood, I really don't have those things happening too often, and that might be also because the people I tend to work with are already agencies mostly. I don't tend to take up personal
private
commissions
work.
as not as much at all.
So if somebody is like, like Prasad is a buddy of mine. He's done these this stuff, and he plays the same game. Does very well on social media and everything. But I was like, man, that must be so chaotic to deal with. I need this tomorrow.
Personal commission, I think a lot harder, because you deal with, and that's one of the reasons I stopped. Firstly, in terms of pricing, you have to have a different price range for personal. At least I realized, I felt bad that I can't really charge someone personally for something. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Like
you just
someone's
feel like it's
wedding.
A lot for one person.
For one person. Like versus an agency who will use it for advertising. It's completely different spectrum.
And it's also not real money. Right? It's from some corporate entity and whatever, right? Yeah. I did a corporate show last night, so I'm loving it today. But go on. Sorry.
And then also like what happens is my work is very timeline. So I have to do like I'll do only one round of changes, if any, and then work on my inking and then coloring and stuff like that. But with someone personally, for them it matters so much that their wedding card comes perfect, as they envision. And I can't even blame someone for it, because their wedding card. So I think I don't like putting that, like with work it's a little more structured, and with personal work it becomes a lot more emotional, and I don't want that, which is why I stopped personal commissions.
So one question I want to ask is, specifically as an artist, we hear things like, you say yes to everything and, never turn down any opportunity. On the same note, people tell you, learn to say no and really, have confidence and take control. So as a freelancer in a place like India, or even in general, like, how do you learn to find that balance in your career? Is it simply experience? Is it having a mentor? Is it trying to get value out of everything? Like, what's your personal approach?
Okay. Firstly, that's a great question.
Thank you, guys. The Birdy Num Num podcast every Friday. Yeah.
You want to plug in the sponsors? As well? Okay.
There are no sponsors. Sponsored by myself. Yeah. So Patreon. Yeah. So.
I think, at least for me, experience played played a big part in this. Like in the beginning, I did take what I got because I was literally stone cold broke. So I just had to take up stuff. One of the best advice I got was to take up things that you want to be known for. So, and that's why I cut off design work, because I absolutely did not enjoy it. And I only did illustration work. So even if someone came to me for, say, a logo, I'd refuse it, even if I not really needed it. But if I needed the money, but I could live without it, I would not do it, because that's why I'll be known for logos.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that worked really well for me. I just took up illustration jobs and I grew it from there. Mind you, like initially, of course, I took up pretty much anything that came my way.
Okay. So you did do the because to the young 21, 22-year-old out of Shristi?
Yeah,
I always get it wrong. I know it's like some girl's name. And, that person might be, literally counting every rupee and 5K for a comedy show flyer, or 2K for a restaurant menu, whatever. So is your advice, do as much as you can of that until you realize, okay, at least I know how to do that, but it's not my jam?
Right. So firstly, I think everyone's path is different, because there's a the biggest caveat here is money. So how much responsibility do you have? Like someone can be staying at home getting all their meals paid for, or given to them, and they don't have to pay rent and they don't have to pay the electricity bill. So they can afford to cut off jobs which they don't need to take and dive straight into things that they just want to take. Mind you, when when I started, I had bills. I had to pay for my dogs and other responsibilities. If it be for your uni, all those things rack up, and then you pick a path that suits you. So there's never one size fits all with this question, but I think it's really important for people to understand, even if they're doing a job they don't like, and understand what they don't like, and understand what the part they really, really like doing, because that's the part you want to strive to do a little more, seeing if that works out to you in monetarily.
So have there been crappy projects that you've done that you're like, God, I just need the money. My back is against the wall. But then later you were like, I'm glad I did that actually, because I learned how to handle a crappy agent or whatever.
Honestly, I can't remember if I actually had, besides one, I don't think I actually had a bad client.
Really?
I know. I'm
okay,
really
everyone.
Lucky.
Really lucky. Everyone just roll. Oh, sorry, princess.
I don't know. I feel really bad because everyone's super nice, and I just had literally one person not pay me, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, two.
Two people.
Yeah, but the second
over
one
9 years in India or whatever.
Yeah, but the second one closed down. So
I see.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So I didn't I don't know. I forgot the question.
No, so I guess where I was wrapping the question up was basically how do you learn to pick and choose your work so that you can grow without being, I'm just not going to do that because, and then you're broke for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think also one more thing I do have to add to this, you pick things that you like doing. If you like doing scrapbooking, there's a very, very low chance you're going to make a living out of it.
Sure.
So you have to be realistic about it. There are going to be some parts of the job you're not going to like, and you have to understand that is part of the job. As a freelancer, I have to do my accounts monthly.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
So now I'm used to it and it doesn't bug me as much. When I started, it was horrific. And but there's some parts of the job you just have to do, and you have to be really, I think, adult about it, and no saying I don't like doing it, so I'm not going to do it. Those kind of things.
I agree completely because it's so funny. My wife who's in the other room, she's like, man, you're so stone cold every day. I thought comedians are supposed to be funny, and what did I marry, and all that. And I'm like, yeah, it's just when people say, wow, you get paid to draw, or wow, you get paid to tell jokes. And I'm like, no, that 1 hour took me 10 years of doing nothing in a coffee shop for two people, getting yelled at by an uncle, whatever. And and learning to read the crowd and do things.
Absolutely. So I think, and that's really smart, because like when people mail me and they say, I love drawing, I want to be an illustrator, I feel really sad telling them that it's not, you don't draw for most of the day. You're actually doing everything from research, talking to clients, sending out briefs, doing your costing, all that stuff. And it's a little disheartening, I feel like, when I say it, but there's no other way to frame it nicely. You just have to be realistically, you're just not going to be doing that for most of the time. You're just going to be actually doing other stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
Same thing with comedy. It's, I'm not sitting here writing jokes. Eventually you got to test them out. But once you do have 40 minutes of jokes, you got to market it, get people to watch it, make sure they talk about it, write reviews.
And I think one of the big things, and I keep saying this, is that's the big difference between something being a hobby and a job. Is all that in between stuff, which is not just pure enjoyment. If it's just pure enjoyment, I mean, you can enjoy the whole thing, but there's a lot of stuff which you'll work towards enjoying. It's
so funny. That's when people who aren't in the creative space meet people who are, and they're so like boring and stern and serious, or they think, wow, that guy's a dick. And it's like, no, he's just focused on who's gonna, write the next review for his book and how does he mark and yada yada. But so a lot of kids do message you and call you and email you and stuff. And are you able to answer everyone?
So I'm actually, for someone who's on
Control
social
C,
media.
Control V. Sorry, Adarsh. Now Sumin. Now Sangeeta.
So the big thing I used to, so it started off, I remember,
it's very flattering. Keep doing it, you guys.
So in the beginning, I remember when I just started Facebook, and that's how I started getting on social media. Okay, wait, I have to backtrack. When I was like in school, when the internet just came out, rather when I got internet. But
it was in Australia. So,
this was in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, okay, got it.
I'm a lot older than that.
Got it. Okay,
So there was this, that time there were not too many forwards, but there was this one cartoonist who got in early, and I loved cartoons since I was young. Super, I can trace back where I love. Anyway, so there was this cartoonist called Glassbergen, and I remember I saw his comic, and then once there was an email address on the comic, on the cartoon, and it was one of those forwards. So I mailed him from my Hotmail account.
Really? Okay.
Cool girl. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
MSN, ICQ, all that stuff.
Oh my God, ICQ was the shit. It was amazing.
Oh my God, it's Sham, of course. You were saying that there was an illustrator off a forward in Australia.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he's from the US. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. So I remember seeing his name. His name was Glassbergen, and I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. But anyway, I mailed him, and I wrote this email from the heart. I love your work and love your cartoons, and it was so funny.
And this is the day when people opened emails.
When everyone, you got only 2 in a month.
Even junk mail you opened.
There was no junk mail folder.
It was just mail.
It was just mail.
It's 50% off. Yeah. So.
I will open that. So I mailed him, and he replied, but from my thing, just saying thank you. That's it.
That's it?
But no, that was the most. I was just
he liked my comment.
He loved me. He read it. It's I thought the
She's
internet
he loved me. You couldn't see it.
I cut his pictures out and put
She has all his heads hung up on a pinboard
under my pillow.
So inspiration. So
I should probably message him now. Actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, so he was amazing. I thought it was the most amazing thing. So when I started Facebook, and then people mail, I used to, in the beginning, it was I should check every day, of course. And then it became a lot that I used to take time off on Sunday. One of the things I learned, because I work from home, is I don't work on weekends. Personally, I work. I mean, I draw for me, but
if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, by the way. Okay. Not true, but all right.
Mind you, when that quote first came out, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. These invoices just write themselves. So,
I forgot what I was saying.
So he said, so then when you got social media.
So then I started replying. I replied to everyone. I took time off, so I had to reply. But then I tell you when it switched. When I was on Instagram, and I just started Instagram, it started slow and stuff. And then the stories started, where you could just you see a story, and it's the quickest, it's almost like Insta message. It is technically Insta.
Yeah.
And it was too much, and that's when I stopped. I could not hack it. And I'm not on, for someone who posts a lot, I only post, I don't actually flip. So I'm not remotely addicted to it. I don't even. I'm never
you just use it as output, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like an external diary. So I do read sometimes, but I don't read often. Because there's enough, I have too much, there's a lot of work. Right. So yeah, that's when I stopped messaging. But like but I always reply to mails. So if someone mails me, but now it's linked to of course, my Teams mail.
Sure,
so then I
sure.
get forwarded. So, but if someone mails me, I do reply. But at one point I tried to do this thing on my blog, which is outdated. But where someone asks a question, it's usually a question I've got before. So I answer at length. And then if someone sends something similar, I just direct
it to them. Yeah. I do the same thing. Yeah.
That helps, I hope. But yeah.
So how do you, because that's a very interesting thing, because even when I started, you get these messages and initially you're like, wow, I'm so cool. And people want my advice and all that stuff. And then you can spend time on that. But for the same reason people like you, if you stop putting out work, then they're just going to disappear in the same fashion. And so it's always interesting to me, like when people are like, oh, you didn't respond, or you didn't. I responded once to somebody, and then he was like, I thought you were some big guy and you responded. Now I lost respect for it.
That is the most amazing comment I've ever heard.
And I was like, wow, I just took time.
Amazing.
And then a lot of my friends who are doing very well in comedy or illustration or whatever, they don't respond at all because they want to keep this persona. But I'm like, you've been doing nothing all day. So I just feel like, yeah, like you said, you need to take fact of what's important, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really important to be down to earth. Like, I mean, I think it's also, I'm an illustrator. I mean, literally, when they say draw I actually do draw for a living. So, there's like, I cannot have airs about this job. And also, like, I mean, it can put you in your place so quick. I think anything in the arts would.
100%.
And, it can also, of course, the other way around as well, where it can
get to your head.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's the best job in the world, though.
Being an illustrator?
Yeah,
really?
it is. It's the best job in the
For
world.
you, I know. Yeah, I know some other jobs I like. Yeah, comedy. Yeah. But that is one thing a lot of people listen to this podcast for, is obviously to take little nuggets of advice they can apply to the young Indian youth, or even the 45-year-old guy who wants to quit his job and really pursue drawing or whatever. What's one thing you just want to like shake like somebody like by the neck and be like, stop doing this or start doing this? Like, for example, a kid emailed me yesterday, is there a stand-up comedy workshop that I can go to learn how to do comedy? Because we as Indians need to have our hand held for everything, not just do it and start, cut your teeth and go for it. So I tell him, just go to an open mic, there's a million, and just get started, right? And they keep asking me about workshops and classes.
I think everyone looks for that golden, basically that golden answer where it'll be like, oh my God, why didn't you just press this button? You would have become an illustrator.
Yeah.
And it's not that. It's like so much of hard work, which no one wants to do. I think people get tired and disheartened after a while.
Mm-hmm. Like how so? Like on the 80th restaurant menu, you mean, or on the 10th? Like I don't know. Like,
I think chasing up. I don't know. It's a lot of things. I think you have to bear a lot more brunt. And I mean, I can't say this for everyone, but like you have to bear a lot more brunt in India, where of course, you get your parental pressures and stuff like that. You have a lot more social requirements, like, at a certain age, if you're a guy or girl for that matter now, you have to get married at a certain age, which means you have to have financial responsibilities at that age and all that stuff. So that becomes really hard. Like you're not going to ever get government, like a dole, which happens in Australia. You'll never get that. You will actually live on the streets, which was my biggest fear, but also was the fear that drove me to
hustle and kind of
absolutely. That really worked for me. But I think everyone's different. Some people actually just be like, I can't do it. Like,
so to the person starting or struggling or halfway through their career in this field, specifically illustration and graphics and that sort of thing, what's one thing you just want to tell people that, like, is it just do it, or is it?
I would say work smart. Like you have to be like, people end up drawing. Again, I think it goes back to it being a hobby. Like people draw and they'll be like, I really love drawing. And I tell them, you have to think of it from a client side. Like, why would someone pay you for this? Is like, where would you use this? So try to think of it backwards. If you like drawing women, where would you use women? Who would your clients be? Is this a finished piece? Is that how you can deliver something to a client? People are not going to take your page. Like, you can't post your page of drawings to someone.
Yeah.
So what is from this how do you get to that professional stage where you can give your work to someone? How much like when I say education, I usually mean like Google learning do you have to do to get to that stage? Just that, like, you have to work smarter when it comes to fields like this, because there are courses. I don't know how much I'm like courses.
Yeah,
I mean, there are some which are fantastic,
and it's also like some, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, with drawing and illustration specifically, how much of it is it your craft versus your style versus the technicals?
Right.
For example, there's plenty of amazingly technically talented light, shadows. They can draw Mona Lisa who make nothing and don't get any work. Yeah. And there's plenty of people who might do the most basic drawing, and they might have something, and the majority are somewhere in between.
Right.
So how important, because, and again, taking it back to India, I joke around with all my friends who are in film, like Sham, the guy who just called me. He's like, dude, I want to buy a camera, and this one has 19 megapixel, 4K, yada, yada. I'm like, none of that matters if you ain't going to use it, bro. If
you're not using your phone excessively already, that they don't need to upgrade.
Yeah, and I don't care how good you technically are at your craft of drawing. If, like you said, there's not a market for using your thing, So if I understood correctly, you kind of have to find that balance. And most importantly, your number one piece of advice is ask, how will people benefit or want this or use this? Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think one of the questions you asked before also was, which I don't know is on camera, but
that's okay.
Was about style. Like, some people have more technical styles and some people don't, and some people have like mix and stuff. And that's a question I get asked by a lot of people who are getting into the field. Because when you're starting off, you don't, mostly, not all the time, some people just start off and they have like this fluid style which has been in the back of their brain for like centuries. But most people don't, and people are kind of surprised when I say I really didn't have a style till I started working as a professional. Actually, when I just moved to India was when I started having a specific, or stuck to a style rather. And that was purely because there was like a lot of work that I had to do, and it was the quickest way for me to work and the most fluent way for me to work. So it just came out, I stuck to it, and it went from there. And it's evolved since then.
Sure.
Thank freaking God. And that's how it should be. But many times, like, so one of my really good friends in Australia is Bill Wood, and he is an illustrator, and he's got multiple style, and that's fabulous.
Really? Like, you can look at two different pictures and you won't realize it from
I would.
You would,
but
the average
he
layman,
does, basically he can do technical drawings, as in like instructional drawings for like a microphone. And also he can do like a kid's book.
Wow.
So he's got, and that's also so brilliant, because that means the types of jobs you can get, I'm like a dime, like so many. Versus for me, I cannot do anything that's technical. Even if I can, I can like obviously draw something, but they won't approach me because I'm known for my style now. And there's nothing wrong or right with it. And sometimes certain things means, and this is where I think you have to move backwards. You realize what you like doing. Some people are so good at like drawing landscapes and stuff, or like, I don't know how to, but you can work for an agency that needs things like that as well. Like, or you can be like a storyboard artist, where you need like multiple types of drawings, or even an advertising agencies. And that's what a lot of illustrators don't realize. There's so many ways you can go. And being an illustrator, there's like, and now because of like social media and stuff, you can create your own field as well. Like, if you're into fashion illustrating, and now the world's your oyster, like you can get clients from all over the world, drawing whatever. You can do stick figures. XKCD, like just as like massive, just by drawing stick figures. If you're like funny and you can find that voice, I don't think there's any like limit to what you can do. You just have to figure out what that do is. And though I do have to say, you have to push through that part where you get really like irritated with your work, I think, when you're starting off. Most people, not all.
You're an artist when randomly you just hate everything you've done up until that point. For sure. And when that happens probably once in 6 months.
And I think also when people ask you, what's your favorite piece of work? And you're like, how can I pick from this? I forgot what I was saying.
I was going to say, for me, it's like, how can I pick from the sea of garbage?
I was going to say it. I'm like, that sounds like I'm being. But yeah, I mean, but that's good also because that means you're always trying to improve and you know your best work is still to be made until you
for
die and
sure.
you're like, God, I didn't create anything.
For
good.
sure.
But,
I think some of the best artists are the most insecure about everything because, there's that imposter syndrome and there's like, I can't believe like people think this is great or whatever. I mean, you should be happy that something does well.
I think, there's a spectrum. I think for me, at least the main thing for me is that I really need to enjoy what I do. Otherwise, I would literally not be in the field.
So you talked about, sorry, did I interrupt you? Sorry.
No, that was
okay. Yeah.
So, I didn't have anything.
One thing I wanted to ask, I wanted to get to, and I think it's a good transition to get to. So social media, Instagram and all that stuff, right? I think we're at a very lucky place in time right now where earlier you had to do what the agency said or what the customer was wanting. And that is important, right? Once you get into that space. But with social media, you can, rather than, you finding an audience, you can have an audience find you potentially.
Right.
If you just love drawing like emo relation, like I used to follow this girl, I'm sure is that Sarah Scribble or whatever?
Oh yeah.
And Facebook blew her up, right? Just like the oatmeal guy.
Yeah.
And now everybody we see here, right, doing very well. So it's like, these are not the most technical, these are not the craziest drawings, but people found solace in the, the sleepy jokes or the stories or the humor. Yeah. And I'm sure majority of these people would have gone to some Saatchi and Saatchi or somebody and they'd have been like, it's not really what.
Yeah.
So how important has social media been, not just as an outlet for, just showcasing your work, but also helping you hone in and craft on your message and like you said, narrow in on what you really want to do.
Right. Okay. So social media is a tool. I wouldn't say it's like the only way. I don't know how to put it.
Like, do you think, and I love, it's so funny, before I told my wife you were coming on here, she actually just sent me one of your things about you and your husband, like when you go to vacation, does he really miss you or not? Something like that. And she's the same way. Like, you didn't miss me for 40. I know you enjoyed your space. And I was like,
I missed you all the time.
Yeah, I missed you all the time. So like, sorry, I think I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No,
yeah.
I forgot the question.
The question was basically, so you said social media is a tool.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm so grateful to social media because when I just started, I knew no one in Bangalore and I just basically got into the deep end, which I don't usually suggest for even people who come in and they'll be like, can I leave my job and start illustrating? And I was
Please don't do that with anything.
I mean, it's a gamble, right? But for me, it was really scary because I was literally with my hands tied behind my back in like deep waters, and I had to make it work.
Yeah, sink or swim.
And touch wood, everything worked out. But social media was my outlet because I started putting things out there, and that's how many of my clients, not many, most of my clients found me, and now it is the way clients find me. Having said that, and because of that, you can have a voice because of it and stuff like that. And you can find what people like and what people don't like. Mm-hmm. I forgot where I was going with this.
So do you, for example, if people are like, wow, do you get like 8,000 comments on your boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband, wife meme about sleeping in or something with your dog, who's super cute, by the way. We love everyone. I think your dog is
really cute.
Your dog needs his own Instagram page.
I thought about that, but if I have to start another page.
Yeah, your dog is just like getting too big of an ego. Yeah,
he does have an ego.
How many likes do we get? So let's say, for example, you just did a drawing of your dog on your own for fun, but that got like the most likes ever. But it's not really what you want to do. You enjoy the relationship stuff more. Right. Would you start doing more dog stuff because it's working, or would you just keep doing whatever you think is right? So
this is where I think it's very personal. I don't think there's right and wrong. I'm like I said, I'm not a big social media user. So I, in terms of, I do read the comments sometimes. She has hundreds of thousands. No, it's not that.
I don't really care about
it truly diverts away from what you kind of want to create. Like if I know that
it's a what do you call it? Like a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
You don't care about it, so you get a lot of followers. And if you do care about the followers, you're going to stop putting out.
Exactly. I mean, there's a balance, right? Like if I draw glasses the whole day, there's a low chance anyone's going to be interested beside me. So you have to bring it back a notch and try to like understand what people like seeing as well, but also knowing that you like certain things and you're not going to do, like I won't draw, there are lots of things I don't draw even though it's really popular to draw about them. Like I wouldn't draw about, I don't draw too much about like politics, or even though it's trending and like talking about social events and stuff, I tend to not draw about those things purely because it's just not me.
So how do you get your inspiration then? For example, is it like, okay, I'm married now, so there's a lot of stuff happening that's new to me that I'll draw about, or my dog did this? Do you make a note if you're at a restaurant and something
Oh
like
my God, yeah. So I make a lot. I'm actually, to be honest, like none of my notes are visual. It's all notes, like literally.
Like text.
Yeah. So I use my phone now a lot to write. So there's like a lot of notes.
Yeah.
So
you use
what
Evernote
happened-
or just Notepad?
I actually use Google Keep.
Oh, I
Google
tried.
Keep.
I can never get into it.
Well, okay,
I like
I'm
Evernote.
I'm the biggest Google fan, and like everyone knows this. But
Okay.
it is the
Yeah.
best.
She
It's
did
the
some
best.
pixel something.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
or-
the best. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like
Whatever.
It is the
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
Having said that, the iPad's the fucking best. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
But so I use I used to keep it on a notebook, and then the problem is that you have to have that notebook in, and then otherwise you have your other notebook, and then you just have too many notebooks. So I started like consolidating all my notes on Keep.
Yeah, I
And
still need a pen and a paper. Though,
I
feel.
do.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a physical diary, which is why I got into making diaries
Yeah.
also, because I definitely need a physical. But only my drawing notes have to be on call, because it can, like, I mean,
You might need
I
to pull it up somewhere.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like even if I have a conversation at any time I have to make a note, I will just type it in or something.
So do you see yourself now? Because I remember years ago, and I think you put one out. Like I had been like, "Hey, here's a joke. Please try to draw it or something." Right? Some rickshaw or something.
Yeah, the
right?
rickshaw.
Yeah.
That was very loved, and that was really funny.
But how do you like? I feel like as an illustrator with a page, especially, you kind of have to also write and draw. And I don't mean write like I mean the content has to come.
Oh, I love it. But I
Yeah.
always like writing little snippets, I think.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes hand in hand. You're right. That's actually good. I never noticed. But a lot of people, like a lot of illustrators don't like the writing part. So for me, I spat on your...
That's fine. Yeah. So it's a
I don't
straight up
have
good luck
any-
for the future
no
guest.
diseases,
Yeah.
I promise, whoever's next.
Yeah. So
But,
the next person will get very talented after talking into this mic.
maybe I'll use that line forever now.
Yeah.
So what was I saying?
So
my
like,
God, the worst memory.
okay, my question specifically is, sorry guys, I hope
I'm
you're still
sorry, this is
listening.
me.
I hope you're enjoying. Yeah. My question is like, you get like, where does your inspiration come from? Number one, day-to-day life or watching TV. You said not news or politics or anything, right?
Yeah.
And then how does that translate onto the paper,
Right.
onto the page, onto the Instagram, whatever?
Okay, so inspiration everywhere, anything, conversations, going on the road, seeing something that happened, something that someone said, something, seeing like my dog, or me imagining shit that my dog would say if he was like could speak. So all that stuff. So anything, and that pretty much just translates. And then you were talking about the writing. So coming back to that, even like I enjoy even writing sometimes, not always, but like when you post something, you have the little content bit at the bottom.
Yeah.
I enjoy writing that part as well. I don't usually write a lot, but like just making it sound like
Okay,
condensed and stuff.
so take us through a tangible example. So, for example, what my wife sent me of you saying when you're on vacation, checking your phone, and your husband is or is not the most reciprocating or whatever. What was first? Explain what that joke was and that image was, and then take me through how it came from.
If I'm not mistaken, because I did a few. I posted a few days. Actually, that was I did like some last year or something, and I didn't post it.
Okay. Well, so I interpreted it as the fact, from my point of view, of girls are always like, "I miss you," and girls are like, "Yeah, I miss you too," like whatever. But what was the real?
So it was. It's not girl and boy. It's like anyone. But it was before I leave, and this happens though. I'll message and I'll be at the airport, or when I'm leaving, I'll be like, "I miss you," and at the airport, I'll be like, "I miss you."
Yeah.
And like when I reach there, I don't give a shit, and then when I come back, I'll be like, "I missed you so much."
Got it.
But like,
So
when I
that's
was
what
there,
it was. Yeah.
So that's usually so the text that's on it as well. I can't remember what. Probably before vacation, on vacation, something like that.
No, but how did you, while you were on vacation and messaging your husband, were you like, there's some content here?
Yeah. So it'd probably be like when I messaged him, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I did not say this during the vacation," and then I would write that note down.
Okay, got it. You're like, I just disappeared when I was on vacation.
Yeah.
And then as I was preparing to come back into reality, it's like, I started being nice again.
I think I drew that when I was at the airport, because I remember that drawing was on the iPad. I can usually tell by the strokes because I usually draw by pen and paper.
Okay.
So I would have been at the airport and realized that I might have just drawn it at time, which is very rare. I never usually have like a stroke of idea and have a pen and paper and have time to like draw it out.
Got it.
So it usually is like that should happen before, but like now, rare.
What's been the most surprising thing? And just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising thing or feedback you've taken from people that to see where your art has gone? Like okay, let me rephrase that. What has surprised you the most about how your art has reached people? You know, I got through a breakup with this, or me and my boyfriend fell in love just by talking about your work, or like, has there been as simple or as complicated as you remember?
Let me think. I definitely did not think that like people would love Charlie as much as like when I started putting out Charlie's photos. I think there were a few people who were like, I think you should tone down the Charlie photos and stuff. Until now, everyone's like,
people tell you.
I think it's from a good place. I think we genuinely say it out of like,
I like the art. Like, just ignore the dog.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
Yeah. I remember there was one person who messaged who I didn't know. No, not like no one on like online, but I remember one friend who's like, I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should just stick to your work. And I think it came from a really good place. It was not from a malicious place. So that was one thing which pleasantly surprised me and made me happy and makes me happy. Okay. Maybe also like Henry's yawns that I put all the time, and I'm always thinking because in the beginning,
Henry's, what is it?
My guinea pig's yawns, which is like a bit much. I know I go overboard, but I do it, and I'm like when I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, I should really think about not putting it, but I'm like, oh, whoops, and then I put it. But and then
he uploaded it, not me. Yeah. Okay.
Because I remember when I started putting George, my husband, was like, he was like, listen, I think you're putting a bit too many yawns. He's literally doing the same thing every day.
So George is your husband and Henry is your guinea pig?
Henry Oates is my guinea pig.
Henry what?
Oates.
Henry Oates. Okay, so it's like a Commonwealthy sort of like...
I actually did not plan that they'd all have like king names, but it just so happened. Yeah, and then Charles.
Why Henry Oates?
I love the name Henry, and Henry just didn't sound like him, so I had to have...
Oats?
I don't know
do
why.
You like oatmeal or something?
I do. I eat every day from the morning.
Okay.
Every morning.
My wife who makes it for me every morning. I don't even.
I love it.
Now I'm married. I eat it. Yeah. So.
I don't actually. So I had it all. I mean, digressing, but I had it all like my entire childhood. But like I realized not many people have it here at all.
Yeah. No, I'm not an oatmeal person at all. But she every morning I wake up and in the fridge I get a message. There's walnuts and chopped this and that.
Favorite.
And
I love it.
With almond milk and all that stuff.
My God.
Yeah. Okay, we'll make you some.
Yeah. Oh, I will take that off.
So cool. So you've been surprised that the guinea pig and the dog and
wait, I'll tell you one other thing which blew up way bigger than I thought was when we got married and like we didn't have a wedding, so when I had to announce that we got married, I made George a website. Yeah. It was quite stupid, but like, I mean, embarrassing. But anyway, I didn't expect that to do really well, but it did.
Oh, it did. Yeah. You wrote about deciding not to do a wedding, right?
Yeah.
Or something?
I never had a wedding.
And what was the rationale behind that?
Okay. So firstly, I never expected to get married. Like when I was young, I grew up knowing I was going to be a spinster my whole life.
Yeah. So what's a spinster?
The spinster is the
like bachelor lady?
Version of bachelor.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think bachelorette is actually a word beyond the party thing. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, spinster. So yeah, and then I never wanted a wedding, and I'm really thinking about for someone, and I remember this was because I had like it was a bit of a emotional blackmail when this whole thing was happening, when I was like very much refusing that I wanted to have a wedding. It was a case of justifying how I'm able to go on stage and talk about my work, but not being able to walk down an aisle.
The aisle.
But I just the thought of it, like, but mind you, I love weddings. Like, love attending. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I love it. I love everything about it. But just me being there, like in the white dress, just absolutely.
Okay. And your husband was fine? He was like, if you don't want to do it.
No, he kind of did want to have a party, and I was like, okay, go ahead and plan it. And then, of course, the planning never happened because he just expected me to, which I did not have time.
Got it. And how, if you don't mind me asking, how did you guys meet? How did somebody meet Alicia Souza?
Oh my God.
The famous...
So funny. But I met him actually at a wedding when I just moved to India. Wait, listen. That time we were both...
She's like, we're never going to do this again.
No, we both were dating other people. Like, then so sweet, his then girlfriend. And
Okay.
so he was dating someone. I was also dating
Okay.
someone.
And what does he do? Your husband, by the way?
He's an architect.
He's an architect. Of course.
Yeah.
Another
That
sort
was
of illustrator. Yeah.
But yeah, he
Yeah.
does not draw for me at all. Like,
She's like, I draw lively things. Yeah. So, okay.
But it's very useful when you're getting a house done. Very,
I
very
can
useful.
imagine. Yeah. Okay.
So I met him, and then we just had common friends, and when I
Okay, so you
broke
met him
up-
at a wedding.
No, that was like
whatever.
how I first got introduced
saw
to him
him
as
at a
a
wedding?
human,
Yeah.
like introduced as a individual, Like,
and then
just-
sometime later, you're
like
friends.
many, like a few years later was when we connected online. Oh my God. I remember I met him once, but this was the first time I had a conversation with him was when I started freelancing and I wanted to start doing decals and wallpapers. And he being an architect, I went to him to talk to him about it.
Okay.
And
What does an architect have to do with decals?
so I wanted to know how people, what is the market like for wallpapers and decals? So
Okay.
because he deals with
in residentials and commercials.
residentials. Mind
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
didn't do residentials much then.
Okay.
But I was very early to the market because there was not enough name in tech to have decals. Mind you, now we manufacture decals.
What is a
and
decal for the
decal
layman
is like
person?
a sticker for the wall, which you can
Got
peel
it.
off.
Okay, understood, yeah.
But like now the market is ready. Very very late. I mean, I was
Okay,
anyway,
so you guys started chatting,
and then
and
we
that's-
and then when we hooked up like way after I don't even know. There's a big debate about how,
yeah.
but just so since we're on camera, he totally made the first move and totally
Yeah.
was like eyeing, and I was like, get lost. And
Yeah. And then she was like, all right, he's persistent.
yeah,
why not?
that
Yeah,
is oh
so-
shit, and this is
No, that's
he
fine.
He
Yeah.
was persistent.
I think,
he
see, if
actually
you-
did not listen to anything I said about listen. I need time. I
Yeah.
just like it was really
Yeah,
did
it's
not
so
give me-
it's so funny, like especially in these times, like it's like be persistent but don't be creepy, but also learn to say yes and no and maybe, and like it's very confusing. But I think George has done well tiptoeing around.
He also lectured me, just so you know. It was
Yeah.
not
He
like,
lectured you.
Oh my God, it was
So
not,
forget creepy, he bored you?
He
What do you mean?
definitely did.
Yeah.
He was not even nice about like, you know
So
how
the thing
someone,
about you women,
yeah.
where's my pipe? Yeah, like it's
He does sound like he would, but he doesn't
Yeah.
look. But he seems like he would be someone who.
he has like a tweed jacket.
He's
My name is
def-
George. Yeah.
Definitely has a tweed jacket,
He has
but
a
he
tweed-
does that.
yeah.
But he doesn't smoke. But he's got the beard and everything.
Uh-huh.
So what was I telling you?
You're saying he
lectured me.
pursued you and lectured you?
So
Yeah.
what happened? Like, so usually if I'm guess like, based on like how you guys usually ask girls out, they'll tell them I like you, or like go around the bush of telling them you like
Which
everything.
is so
but
basic, by the way. Our you youngsters
Yeah.
don't realize. Just say you like somebody. Stop this. Do the hi, like
it's
whatever.
adorable.
It's adorable until it's creepy. Yeah, I'm working on a joke about this, but yeah, go on. Yeah.
So he when he was telling me he liked me, it was not like him telling me he likes me. He was just telling me about how he's of an age where he cannot do anything lightly, and he's not here to have like a light relationship.
I
It's
see.
only go straight. And I'm like, okay. I do not even. How do you even respond to something like that?
All the
It's like,
girls listening
yeah,
are like,
yeah.
where are these men? Like,
Please.
where are the serious men who just get
So
straight to the
serious.
point?
Oh my
Yeah.
God! I think I was. I didn't anticipate how serious he was, but
This
it's
is-
adorable.
This is my favorite thing about you women. Like, is that, I've heard these things like women want a man who's serious yet spontaneous. They want a man who has his stuff figured out yet also doesn't know what he wants to. Like, I don't know. There's always like that. But men and women are the same, and everybody is the same. That's what makes us unique. So, all right, last question, Alicia, I have is basically as somebody who also works from home and struggles with, do I Netflix? Do I Swiggy? Do I do my work? Do I meditate for 20 minutes? Do I go work out? Do I clean the kitchen for the 80th time? How the hell do you work from home, dude? Like, how?
Sorry, that's my phone.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. It's okay. That's real work. Yeah, let it be. Yeah.
Sorry, client, if it is.
That's okay.
It's not.
If you want to
It's
check it,
not.
go
No,
ahead.
it's probably George.
So, okay, yeah.
I miss
What the
you.
hell?
Yeah.
Where are you? Yeah. I haven't got a typical I missed you every 30 minutes.
No, I was like, take me to the shop, but I don't have my car.
Oh, okay. Got
It's
it.
very
Got it. You want to answer it?
sensitive.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
So what was I saying?
He's
Okay,
gonna be
okay.
watching this
Oh, shit.
and be like, "That was me calling." Like, yeah, okay. The time right now
Cut.
is
3:16
p.m. on Friday. So let's
Hope it's
see.
not him now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so firstly, I'll start with I love being at home. It is my ultimate. It's. I know, like I think.
But you're so not that introvert with the
Oh my
socks
God, it
watching
did not
Netflix
start like this.
that I see all the memes about. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was. So when I started freelancing, I'll tell you, and this is really essential people know, because when I started freelancing, I was such an introvert that even picking up a call used to make me shy. It's like, it was like so bad, and like meeting someone would be like horrific. And then it went from that to like, talking to little more people, and then like doing talks on stages, which was personally my hardest growth. A lot of people won't find this hard, but for me, that was the biggest challenge.
Just being out in the world.
And like
shop
talking about. I don't usually tend to talk about work. You do, but like I just think talking to people initially was super hard for me. I used to literally shy away from people, which is maybe why I don't come and say hi when you.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fine.
But that was really hard. So I love home, and I love being at home. So, but one of the ways where it works for me is I'm really, really scheduled. I get up every day at the same time. I go to sleep regardless of whether it's a weekend or not. And I have things I have to do in a day. It really does help that there's a lot of work to do. And for me, I think, you can be anywhere to do your work. I have to be in front of my computer because my work, I have to use my desktop, I have to use my Mac home, and I can take my iPad, but for finished work, I like using my computer and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So that helps. And I super schedule it. I schedule the day before and I schedule the week before.
So even if you're at home for the next 3 days, you schedule hour by hour?
It's almost, I don't do it hour by hour because I pretty much know what I will prioritize. But in the beginning of, like for tomorrow, I already have a list out.
So do you have a room that's your office at home?
No,
that
I
you
have
go
a
into?
section in
the living
house.
room.
And it's in the guestish bedroom. We're gonna move really soon. Then I'll have a bigger space.
Okay.
But I call it my desk space because it's just a desk, and that's all I really need.
So what time do you wake up? Like, let's go through an average day. Okay. So you get up at what time?
I get up at 5:15.
5:15.
Yeah.
And your office is your home anyways,
Yeah.
right?
I get up and walk Charlie instantly. I start work at 6.
Okay, 5:15, you walk your dog for 15, 20 minutes, kind of rub your eyes,
And
whatever.
then, yeah.
And then by 6 o'clock, you start work.
Yeah, I start work.
You have your coffee and
I
stuff.
have coffee, and I work. It's only punctuated by coffee trips, breakfast, which is I'm the fastest eater in the world. It takes me literally 3 minutes.
Your oatmeal,
yeah,
right?
of course. That's why it's so quick.
So you start work at 6 a.m. Why?
I'm a morning person, very much.
But aren't you ready to go back to bed by 7:30?
No, I can't. I don't. That's a habit. Now it's been so many years. I physically cannot let myself.
But that's my problem.
I get guilty. I
at
feel
home,
guilty.
you can at any time just lie down.
Oh,
on
you
the
never
desk.
touch your bed. That's the rule of thumb.
That's the rule of thumb.
Once
but
you
your
get up,
couch is there. Your sofa is there. The AC is there.
When I sit at my desk, I don't get. It's become habit, so I can't imagine it being. Before, I think my biggest. No, I think I'm not. And I don't get easily distracted. I'm not like addicted to TV or like. My biggest distraction is drawing other stuff and not client work.
Oh, your distraction is other work, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like just work, like other stuff. Also, now it helps that I have I always have work to do because I have a company also. So there's just too much stuff to do, so I can't go physically let myself do things that would waste.
This is gonna sound so anti what you see on entrepreneurial videos and all that stuff. But what I actually kind of miss about corporate is having somebody tell me what to do sometimes.
But
because it gave me deadlines.
I think one
of
the things that I never really had a full-time job. So I just had to craft this for myself.
Yeah.
But now I would find it hard to, like, one of the things I can't understand is I can't imagine getting up and dressing up. That would drive me insane.
Yeah.
Like,
I hate that. That's the part I don't miss for once.
I love working so I can't. And don't think I can work in jeans. I'd probably have to work in strip into pajamas and work. Like I've done it for so long.
She like wakes up one day. She's like wearing jeans. She's like, I need to get ready for work, and then she puts on pajamas. Like
that's probably the crappiest pajamas I can. Yeah.
No, I'm sure Alicia has some crazy cartoon, cool, really hip pajama. Okay, so you wake up. So you basically treat it like a shift, 6 a.m. to 2 or 3 or 4.
It's 6 till 3. 3 o'clock I walk 3:15 I walk. I know it's very specific.
Yeah.
3:15 I walk Charles.
And you have lunch at whatever, 12 or something?
Yeah, I have lunch at like 11.
And lunch is a working lunch, or you pop in front of the TV and sit for 30?
I eat so fast. It's like 10 minutes. It doesn't matter where I am.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the fastest. Like George and me, we have like the quickest dates in the world. It's quite depressing.
So you're literally pop, just working from 6 to 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it becomes disturbing if George is at home sometimes.
Are you like, get out of my face? I just need to.
Like, it doesn't, but then I can't fully function like really quick, which is one other reason why I cannot work with someone. Like I thought I would get someone to work like an intern perhaps, and it just doesn't work. It just does not work.
It's hard to delegate when you do end up learning how to do a bunch of stuff yourself, and it's just easier to write your own invoices, even though you could outsource that to somebody.
I started delegating work, like certain things I can delegate, certain things I can't, because physically I cannot get someone else to draw my work, which people expect me to draw. So that part becomes harder.
So what is your company now, roughly? Just, I mean, I know.
So it started off with just manufacturing my merchandise. I have a partner, Saurabh, and now we manufacture for a lot of corporates and also for other artists as well. We also have another brand called Happy Wagon where we sell merchandise of other artists. And that's about it.
Got it. Okay. And you guys do this all on Amazon or on your own website?
We sell on other websites as well. That includes Amazon and like Flipkart and stuff like that. But it also goes just on the website. And then I have my own web store as well.
Okay. So just taking it back to working from home, 6 to 3, then you take a break. I'm assuming your husband comes home, whatever.
Oh, no, he doesn't come at 3. He comes later.
Okay. Later.
So then I try to be good and go to the gym.
As we all try.
Oh my God. The walking Charlie is just me debating whether I want to go to the gym. I wish I felt more guilty about the gym than I did about like sleep. Then I would go to the gym a lot more.
So do you treat that 6 to 3 also like I got to post on Instagram and this that?
No, I only do. Oh, sorry. At 7:30 is when I post my first post.
Okay.
I do it the night before, so I'll come to that.
Okay. Do you use one of those apps, scheduler apps or something, or you just do it yourself?
I use my diary. I realize after. So as you can tell after this conversation, I have a really bad memory, which is how I got into scheduling. I have to mark like a lot of things which I would forget. Like if I have to take a multivitamin, I will not remember if I don't write it down. That becomes
really?
It becomes like in the beginning. So when I just started doing Facebook, it used to be a thing in my thing at 9 o'clock. I remember it was specifically 9 o'clock.
I just started doing Facebook, is what she said. Yeah, you are treating it like a job.
Oh my God, it is a job because it's part of your marketing technically.
Of course,
I mean, at my I don't say my stage, but like at my. After doing it for so long, it is part of my...
I've started to realize with Instagram, if you're consistent, and obviously consistency means you have to treat it some way as professional sort of marketing thing, that you're going to benefit a lot more from people looking forward to that sort of stuff.
I guess it's another way of like, now no one goes around with an updated portfolio.
Just look at my Instagram.
So it's not Instagram. So that's why I have to treat it with respect in a way.
Yeah. So are you as active on Facebook or just
No, I just post it through Instagram.
Just post it through Instagram.
And I know like the organic reach of both have like Instagram. I mean, Facebook is
it's a joke almost. Yeah.
I hate dissing it because it started me off, but I cannot believe how they've messed up. Like it's so sad. Like it's unbelievable. I can just trace back with posts. Like I can trace back and see how it depleted and how it's just so sad. But anyway, this is why I say you should always look at social media as a tool, and you always have to understand your...
And like any tool, tomorrow if Adobe shuts down Illustrator, you'll have to just learn some other tool which it never would. But
Adobe.
You went to that Adobe conference,
it was the
right?
best. It was amazing.
So is that one of those things where they see online you're big in India and the world, and they send you a pass and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. You went with another guy who I've been following.
He's amazing.
What's his channel? What's his YouTube?
Brown Paper Bag.
Yes, comics. He's really. I like him too.
He's such a darling as well, and such a. Oh my God, I feel I've pretty much auntied him.
Is he South Indian, Bangalore based?
He's from Bombay, if I'm not mistaken, but now he's in Bangalore.
He's in Bangalore. Yeah. Really? Doesn't it work the opposite normally?
I asked him the exact same thing, but I think he studied here, and then he just...
Okay.
I think he went to Srishti, if I'm not mistaken.
I like his stuff because...
He's really funny.
No, but as somebody who in comedy is struggling because it's moving to a Hinglish sort of vibe, I'm still English. Generally, all of his is entirely English, even the punchlines are. So I'm like... Follow. I like, because it's always like Indian names and Indian people. It's like, oh, Shilpa, stop it. But the jokes are just...
It's adorable.
It feels like a very Bangalore club family or something. You know what I mean?
That's true, I guess. Yeah.
Like you just came from the US and already you have that accent or whatever.
He's so good.
So you and him went for that thing?
Yeah. It was lots of fun.
So
the year before that, I went for the other Adobe one as well. So,
Adobe Max is what it's called?
Adobe Max was last year.
Okay. Yeah. So what happens at things like this, basically?
So what happens, they tell you, it's basically you go and firstly, they have a lot of little small, not events, like talks and like showcases where you can go and pick what you like. So if you want to see about the new brushes, like, oh God,
whatever the latest things
yeah, like
are.
they tell you, they update you about like certain things. Some people just talk about their speciality and certain things, so like you can pick what suits you. Like, so one of the highlights for me was like there's this guy called Kyle Webster, and he did brushes. I used to buy brushes from him, Photoshop brushes, like way before now he.
So you can, it's like a software brush you can add on.
It was a plugin of brushes on Photoshop that he used to sell individually, but then they
bundled it within Adobe.
Adobe bought
acquired it.
And then he came and he was presenting them. And it was like amazing to think like, I used to buy I used to scrounge and buy his brushes online.
For like $3.
Yeah, and that time it was like $3, like in rupees. And I didn't even have a credit card. It was like, so, and then now to see him, and he was so adorable. Like, I cannot handle like how wonderful.
And all the Photoshop, I was like geeking out on him. Like, oh my God, that's Kyle.
I feel like I was the most excited person in the room, but I cannot show it. So I'd be like this, but in my head is like exploding because I'm trying to be sane. But there were like so many people like that. And like, then they show you the technology that is happening within Adobe, and it's like, it's just amazing. I feel like an old woman who's seeing the world, and it's just like, oh, everything's like in color, and it's amazing.
No, I remember watching one of those live streams from. I'm big on the video editing stuff, so I follow all of that After Effects and Premiere, and they were doing like a live thing, and only like 800 people were watching it, and they were talking about next year what's coming out. Yeah. And I was like, how is nobody into this as much as I am? Like, that's so cool what he just said, auto subtitles or whatever it was. And
they were talking about a lot of video stuff as well.
I mean, because video is content now, basically.
Absolutely,
you know?
One day I will get into it.
That's fine. I mean, and some people, look, you can't listen to you can't watch a podcast while you're driving, but you can definitely listen to us ramble for an hour and 11 minutes, which is great.
It's an hour, Jesus.
Time flies when you're having fun, Alicia. Time flies. Anything else you want to say to our listeners or anything?
I forgot what we were talking about. I'm sure I missed that one bit.
We were talking. We talked about Instagram. We talked about.
No, I forgot that part. Like Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook. Yes, the Facebook reach was going down.
And then why did we talk about that?
We were talking. I was asking you, do you treat social media like a job, basically? And you said you plan out your posts.
I mean, plan out as in I just plan the day before, but not stories, of course. Stories is just whenever Henry owns.
Okay, and
whenever
but
some days. But the thing is that, and then you can tell, right? Because most of my days are spent at home and very scheduled and stuff like that. I don't end up posting things beyond these two furry boys because I'm just with them the whole day.
Sure.
Which is why also I draw about them a lot more because I'm with them.
But will you ever, like when you're posting on social media, like you did something funny about your dog, then you put something funny about your husband, then you just put something funny about taking a rickshaw or it's raining in Bangalore or curling up with hot chocolate, and then are you like, will you be like, oh, I've done like 3 dogs in a row? Will you look at your grid the way people, before. You don't,
100%
nothing. You just whatever you feel.
I don't look at my feed. I don't look at like how things, and I didn't know this was a thing also. That's how far behind I am, I think, in that. In terms of you open your page and you're like, I like how this grid looks. Never, ever looked at that.
So on a similar note, how do you decide when to take feedback from people? Because there might be a 19-year-old who's never picked up a pen in his life, but is giving you valuable feedback. And there might be a 19-year-old who's just trolling you for no reason. So how do you learn to take criticism, feedback?
I think definitely listen to everything people like negative people have to say, because I learned this when I used to work in a coffee shop, and we used to have
which coffee shop was it? It was like
I worked in 2 actually. Okay. One was Gloria Jean's for the longest time.
Okay. I really like their coffee for some reason. I really like their coffee is what I'm saying. Maybe you don't. You're sick of it probably. My mom took me there when I was 9 and stuck in my head forever.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but I had the sweetest boss in the world.
In India or
no, it was in Melbourne.
Okay, and then
he's so sweet, and I think he was horrified when I was doing the interview, and he was like, "Do you like coffee?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "What kind of coffee do you drink?" And in my head, I'm like, "Instant," and I'm like, "Instant," and he's like, "Oh, hello."
You're like, you'll learn.
But he was so sweet. Anyway, so when I was at the coffee shop, I remember they were we had these those feedback forms, and no one used to use this. Who like usually no one just goes and like takes the feedback form. But when we got it, we had to treat it like it was worth 10 people's opinions, because they didn't come in often. So if it was bad, 10 people thought it was like what, because someone took the trouble to. So that's what, yeah. So and that's, I think, the rule of thumb also with criticism is that, like, if you go to a nice restaurant and you love it, you will just be like, oh, I loved it. But if you hated something, you will tell like a lot of people that you hate it. And so that's why I think it's really important. Also, it keeps me really grounded if someone doesn't like them. But I obviously can tell if something, it doesn't float my boat. And it's not that I won't listen, but I might not just take it as to heart, and might not like follow up on it.
And I'm so glad you said that, because that's a very underrated skill. I feel a lot of people who in today's world, you have to put yourself out there to get noticed and to kind of be vulnerable. And, you know, some, I've talked about this before, some 50-year-old guy will work for 30 years at Infosys, finally have the courage to write a book, and then get one bad review and let that just define his life. Whereas once you realize this is all just a part of the game, it's like traffic going to the office. It happens. You're not going to please everybody. You can get better and better once you kind of learn to just navigate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, cool. Any final words to what are all your socials again? Not that you need us to tell the audience, but
Alicia Souza.
That's
usually that.
Alicia Souza. You can see from Instagram. Everything else, I will link to it in the description. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. And
sorry, I kept forgetting questions.
No, I hope you guys have listened to us the whole way. Please, if you have any questions or comments for either I or Alicia, please do tweet or Instagram or DM them or comment in either the YouTube highlights or the podcast itself. So thank you so much. Had a good time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Num num. Birdy num num. Birdy num num. Birdy num num.
That's